So we'll continue with where we left off. We didn't get very far in talking about bodhicitta yesterday, but we'll get there, yes, because I promised you. We started a little bit about our rules of the universe. Yeah, I find that that's a really something that's really helpful to look at. And when I can see my rules of the universe, yeah, because often we have them and we don't even know we have them, and they're what lies behind all of our opinions. So it's quite helpful to be able to see them and then ask ourselves, is this something reasonable or not? Yeah. And actually, if we look at a lot of our actions, a lot of our thoughts, the things that are our karma, our mental, physical, verbal actions, and then we ask ourselves, what is it I really want, or what am I trying to achieve by this action? We see that what we're doing is off. Yeah, it's not reasonable. It's not bringing the kind of results that we want. And it's creating more turmoil in our lives and also in our minds. But we'll get into more specifics about that. Okay, so we'll start visualizing in front of us the merit field, the Buddha, surrounded by all the other Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And remember, we're surrounded by all the sentient beings, and it's very good to put in the visualization people who you're having difficulty with. In other words, we can't ostracize them. And the masters say to put those people that you're having difficulty with right in front of you. So you're facing the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the difficult people are the ones right in front of you. So in order to see your objects of refuge, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you can't avoid seeing the people you have difficulties with. Why? Well, because it's imperative to have compassion for them, to include them in the field of our bodhicitta, because if we don't, then, we say that we're practicing the path, but we're not actually doing it, implementing the teachings on love and compassion in our lives. Because it's easy to have love and compassion for the people who are nice to us. Strangers, it's a little bit harder, and people who harm us or who we disagree with, it's even harder. So it's very important that we learn to deal with these kind of situations. And we're leading all the sentient beings who are facing the Buddha together with us, all around us. We're leading them to take refuge and to generate bodhicitta. So let's cultivate our motivation. And remember that just considering our planet, which is one small dot in the universe, that there's over 8 billion human beings. And if we think of all the animals and insects on the land, in the oceans, in the sky, there's gazillions more. And all of us, no matter who we are and where we're born, equally want happiness and not suffering. And yet all of us are under the control of our afflictions, including our wrong views, our craving, ignorance, and so on. And through acting motivated by these views and disturbing emotions, we create karma, which ripens in terms of what kind of rebirth we have, what we experience in that rebirth, where we're born, and there's also an imprint to repeatedly do the action in the future, which is said to be one of the most severe consequences of a negative action, because the other results, although they may initially be more painful than having a tendency, once the other results ripen, that karma is exhausted. But with the karma, the tendency to do the action again, then we recreate again and again and again the same non-virtuous physical, verbal, and mental actions that perpetuate our rebirth in cyclic existence. So when we see this situation clearly, then we seek a refuge, not somebody who's going to magically rescue us, because such a person doesn't exist, but those who know the way to freedom and can teach us that ourselves. And so we turn to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha for refuge. And we do so with the intention to work for the welfare of all beings. So we're going to take refuge and generate bodhicitta in your mind. Do that and make that bodhicitta the reason that you're here today. Okay. So remember that I read all the verses in the text through the measure of what generating bodhicitta is. Yeah, whenever we see any sentient being, our thought is, I want to attain full awakening in order to be of the greatest benefit to them. Yeah, so that's the measure. Sometimes we find that people equate being a nice person with being a bodhisattva. There's a difference. Yeah, being a nice person is great. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you have great compassion, that you cherish others more than self, or that you want to attain full awakening and are going to do the practices that entail doing so because you want to be of the greatest benefit to others. But to generate, let's go back to the thing of, instead of starting with the measure of developing bodhicitta, let's go back to how we do it. So there's two ways that have been taught in the scriptures. one is called the 7-point cause and effect instruction. And this is the one that where you see all sentient beings as having been your mother, the kindness of the mother, and it could be to be gender equal. Yeah, all sentient beings have been your parents, the kindness of your parents. Yeah, and the wish to repay that. And then based on that, generating heartfelt love or heartwarming love and compassion. Then the special intention to do something about the situation of sentient beings, and then bodhicitta. So in Shantideva's method of generating bodhicitta, that's the second one. It's called equalizing and exchanging self with others. Okay? So we do this based first on equanimity, equalizing friends and enemies so that we're free of attachment and aversion to other people. And then equalizing self and others means instead of just equalizing friends and enemies with I'm still foremost, we equalize our own importance with the importance of others so that everybody becomes equally important in terms of wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Yeah. Based on that, then we have to exchange self and others. And to really do that, we have to see the defects of being self-centered. Yeah. So scientists may tell us that we are hardwired to be self-centered, but the Buddha does not agree. Buddha says that that is something that is a habit that's deeply ingrained in our mind, but because it is not based on what is reasonable or logical, it's something that can be eliminated. Okay, so then somebody's going to say, well, why isn't taking care of myself first reasonable and logical? Okay, I think it's beneficial if I take care of myself first. Yeah, then I'm not a burden to anybody else. And, then I'm just upfront about what I want. And the payoff is maybe I can get everything I want. Okay. And that self-centered attitude, just seeking, its proverb is, I want what I want when I want it. Yeah. You know that? Yeah, you know that attitude somewhere inside yourself. I want what I want when I want it. Okay? I don't want something else, and I don't want it later unless I want it later. I want it most often now or ASAP, and I want exactly what I want. Okay? If we look, this kind of idea creates a lot of problems in our life because every time we approach anybody or any situation, our perspective is, what can I get out of it? Okay. So, coming to Dharma class, do you think I'm going so that I can be of greater benefit to sentient beings? Or do we think I'm going so that I can learn something so that I can be happier now? There's nothing wrong with that. It is limited. And sometimes that attitude, maybe going to Dharma class, it's okay because you're also doing something helpful. But very often when we seek what we want when we want it, we create a lot of problems, okay? Because we're very attached to what we want. And the more we're attached to something, the more upset we get, the more angry we get when we can't get it when we want it. Okay? So here we find that we have a lot of what I like to call rules of the universe. And we each have our own set of them. There's a lot of overlap between them. But when we get into the details, there's variance, okay? But it's very interesting to look at our rules of the universe, how we think the world should be in relationship to me, because the self-centered attitude sees the world in terms of me. Yeah, in case you don't recognize it already, I happen to be the center of the universe. Yeah. Now, I know you people think you're the center of the universe, but you're wrong. Okay. I am. Yeah. And the quicker that you learn that, and the more you follow my rules of the universe, the happier and more harmonious we are going to be. Okay? This is Donnie's, what Donnie is doing. Okay. Now, I have different rules of the universe than he does, and he is undoubtedly wrong. Yes. But we do have, I have to admit, some overlapping ones. Okay. So I'll tell you some of my rules, and then you can check up if they overlap with yours. Okay, so first one, yeah, is I have to get everything I want. Yeah? Do you think that too? Yeah. And it has a corollary, which is the universe owes it to me. I am entitled to it. Okay. Second one, but this one also might be the first one sometimes, is everybody has to like me. Everybody has to like me. Everybody has to like me. Why? Because I am such a wonderful person. Yeah. And nobody is allowed not to like me. It's a free world, but there are some limits to our freedom. Yeah. And one is that nobody is allowed to dislike me. Okay. That goes with, yeah, some subsidiary ones, which is everything I think is correct. Yeah. All my opinions are correct. Why? Because I would never think anything except what is true and reasonable. I am not stupid. Okay, so all my opinions are correct. Therefore, you should do what I think you should do. Yeah, which is formally stated as everybody should follow my advice. Why? Because I know how things should be. And other people are just, they're kind of, they don't think very clearly. They're so self-centered. Yeah. They don't realize that what I think, you know, is right. And they should just follow my advice. Okay. Another one is I should get whatever I want. Okay. Everybody should praise me, even if I make a mistake, which I never do. So you should remember that. Yeah. You should never criticize me because I do not make mistakes. It's always other people's fault. Okay? So I never make mistakes. Even if something looks like a mistake that I made, it's not. Yeah. And even if maybe it is my mistake, nobody should talk about it. Yeah. You cannot talk about my mistakes. You cannot talk about my bad actions. Yeah. Because really, if you look closely, I don't have any. Yeah. Okay. What other ones do I have? Uh, I should always be well and happy. Yeah. I'm not allowed to get sick. So germs, just be aware of that and go in the other way. Yeah. Okay. And then there's lots of subsidiaries, of my rules of the universe, according to what kind of relationship we have. Yeah. So if we were married, then you should know what, oh, well, actually, this doesn't just pertain to if we're married, but everybody, yeah, should understand without me saying anything what I need or want at any particular moment, and do everything possible under the sun to give it to me. Yeah. So I shouldn't have to say what I want or what I need, or even give you my advice. You should automatically know it and follow it. Right? Right? Yeah. So you should never accuse me of being self centered. I am not. I am just correct all the time. Okay. And if I want to, you know, change the name of New York to Constantinople, well, tomorrow, not forget tomorrow, the next moment, it is going to be Constantinople. Yeah. And, Constantinople, they already changed that. That's now Istanbul. So we now, yeah, this place here is now Constantinople. Yeah, change the maps. Yeah, I will give you my Sharpie. You can do it. Okay. So, yeah, but so we think everything is really clear, what my rules of the universe are. And the problem is that people don't follow them. Yeah. And like I said, I shouldn't have to tell anybody what they are. You should just obviously know. Okay. And you should intuit what I want before I even say anything. Oh, and you should never project anything unrealistic on me. So, when they talk about the Buddha being perfect, well, I'm practicing to be a Buddha, so you should see me in that way too as part of your practice. Yeah. So, when I spilled water when we were at Yale, yeah, Microsoft. Okay. Yeah, dangerously close to the computer. Uh, People thought that I spilled the water. Actually, I would never do anything like that because I am perfect. The water itself decided to tip over, even though I told it not to. And you see, this is the problem in the universe, is nobody does what I say. They don't follow my advice, even the water. Yeah. So if you're gonna tip over, at least tip over in the other direction. Okay? Yeah, you learn from that. So this brings some difficulties in our life, doesn't it? Yeah. We have all these assumptions that we usually do not tell other people because we just figured they should know it. Yeah. And also, if we told them, we might sound a little selfish, and that might make other people mistakenly think that I am selfish, but I'm not. Okay. So, yeah, are you getting what I'm saying? Mhm. So there's so many examples of this in our life that come from just small misunderstandings. We thought somebody else did something, yeah, when they didn't. And if we stop, we didn't clarify with them who was supposed to do this. We just assumed they would. Yeah. And if even if I said I would do it, yeah, they still should have done it, but because they should understand that sometimes I forget things, right? But they should never say that. Yeah, that they should never say, I did it because you forgot to do it. They should just do it. And then when other people say, who did this wonderful thing, they should give my name. Okay. So, if we just look in our life, the misunderstandings, the disagreements that we have with people, so many of them are based on our rules of the universe, which, and the formal, attribute that people have to realize is I'm the center of the universe. Okay, so I think sometimes if I talk about, how many of you have teenage kids? Okay, you poor people. How many of you were teenage kids? Yeah. How many of you made your parents semi-miserable sometimes? Okay. So I think of the conflict that I had with my parents. Yeah. Um, and you see, it was really all their fault. Yeah. Just so that you know that. Because my friends' parents let them stay out later than my parents let me stay out. I had to be home by 12 midnight exactly. Okay. I have a Jewish mother. How many of you have Jewish mothers? Yeah. You know what happens if you're 1 minute late, at least my Jewish mother. Yeah. She would be, I never was 1 minute late because I had a little bit of compassion for the police because because if I were, she would immediately call the police and say, my daughter's been kidnapped, you know, she's in a ditch somewhere. She was in a traffic accident. Go out and find my daughter. She was supposed to be home 30 seconds ago, and she's not. Okay. So we had some conflicts. Yeah. Yeah. Try having conflicts with a Jewish mother. Oy vey. Yeah. So, so I battled this deadline of, this curfew by when I had to be back. And, and I didn't understand why there was this curfew because I was 16. And, when you're 16, you are almost omniscient. Yeah. There's a few things you still don't know, but you are definitely more knowledgeable than your parents at age 16. Yeah. Don't you agree? Yeah, definitely. Parents say such stupid things sometimes. You can't believe it. Yeah. So, we had this conflict. Okay. Now, what do you think if you're looking at it from, uh, I'm saying, I want my freedom. I want to be home when I can be home. I am a responsible adult. I'm 16. I will not get myself in trouble. And anyway, you're the safe ones that I go to for help if I do, but I'm not. I'm not going to get in trouble. Yeah. And my parents are saying, no, you have to be home. Okay. What's the issue for me? What am I wanting? Freedom. I'm wanting my freedom. Yeah. You see, I supported Kamala even when I was 16. Yeah. But I wanted my freedom. I wanted my autonomy. What were my parents concerned? Safety. I was fighting about autonomy. They were fighting about safety. We were totally missing each other because I thought that the issue was my autonomy, and that's why I didn't understand why they wanted me home. They thought the issue was safety and, that I was just reckless. Okay, fighting over two different things. How often does that happen in our relationships with people? Yeah, where the basic issues we're fighting over are different. And we assume they're the same. And so obviously we are right. Yeah. And so sometimes arguments start out very small, but because our assumptions are different and our assumptions are based on our own self-centeredness, then we really miss each other. Okay, let me give you another example. Okay, so, there's a couple sitting down for breakfast one morning, and, one of them says, Dear, pass the peanut butter. And this one says, oh, we're out of peanut butter. What do you mean we're out of peanut butter? We don't have any. Well, but it's your responsibility to buy peanut butter. Well, actually, I did. I bought some creamy peanut butter. But I like crunchy peanut butter. Why in the world did you buy creamy peanut butter? I don't like that. Listen, it's not such a big deal. It is a big deal. We've been married, 10 years, and you still don't know what kind of peanut butter I like. And you know what? I think you deliberately got the creamy peanut butter because I don't like it. I didn't do that. You're just projecting stuff on me. I am not projecting stuff. You are. You always exaggerate things. Everything I do becomes a big issue. Well, it is a big issue, the peanut butter, because underlying the peanut butter is, do you really care about me? Yeah. And, I've always thought that you're passive aggressive. Yeah. In fact, I know you're passive aggressive. And this is how you get even. You don't buy the crunchy peanut butter, you get the creamy peanut butter. Oh, your projections are just out of the sight. What are you talking to me like this? You're just always, without a doubt, exaggerating being, a prima donna thinking that I should serve you. Well, you did marry me after all. Yeah. And wasn't that one of your vows to love and cherish me forever? Well, it was, but only when you're a nice person. Well, talk about being a nice person. You don't measure up either. Oh, well, why are you saying that? It's always blaming me. You're the one who's to blame. Okay. Yeah. You ever had that argument? Yeah. It starts over some tiny thing, tiny thing like the peanut butter. Yeah. And then it actually becomes an argument about communication, and it becomes an argument about the foundation of the relationship. Yeah. Do you see me accurately? Do you care about me? Okay. And so we think we're fighting about the peanut butter, but we're actually, yeah, it's not really about the peanut butter. It's really about, do you care about me? Do you, from one side, do you care about me? And from the other side of also, do you care about me? Why are you always blaming everything on me? Okay, so do you see what I'm getting at? It starts on one small thing, and then it escalates to become a conflict about, the relationship itself. And it ends up with this one of them saying, yeah, I'm going to divorce you. Forget it. You're always like this. 10 years, you're always caring about yourself and not caring about me. Okay. So, what's behind this? Both parties are thinking me, I, my, and mine are the most important ones in the universe. Yeah. And everybody should know that. And I should get what I want. Yeah. And so when we look, we have so many of our disagreements are based on that kind of self-centeredness. Yeah. And so that makes it difficult for actually us to creak open the doors of our mind to think of how somebody else may see the situation. And that uh, whether we agree with how they see the situation or not, we're being self-centered and they're probably being self-centered too. So if we think that they're exaggerating their importance, then aren't we also exaggerating our importance? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the point here is that, when we had the peanut butter argument, uh, everybody wants happiness, nobody wants suffering, but everybody's putting themselves first and attributing all fault and blame to the others. From a Buddhist perspective, okay, what is it that's the real source of the problem? It's starting off with self-grasping, thinking that there's a real solid thing that is me, and then getting attached to that self that we've constructed, and being self-centered, thinking that the universe is all about me. Okay? And so that attitude, that self-centeredness, is a big problem. Yeah. If we go back to what we talked about on Friday night, why is there not enough time or no time for Dharma practice? What are we doing with the rest of the time? Mm, you know, Well, we sleep, we eat, but we're basically out there looking for our immediate pleasure, or at least to uh, destroy whatever it is that's hindering and getting in the way of our pleasure. Okay, so yeah, this self-centered mind, if we look, what lies behind all of our negative karma, yeah, which is the principal cause of our misery, it's the self-centered mind. It motivates all these things that we do. Okay? So it's very easy to see other people's self-centeredness. It's much more difficult to see our own because we think we deserve it, and the universe should be fair. And fair means I get my way. Yeah. We're so reasonable. Yes, everything's fair. Everybody has equal rights as long as I win and I get my way. Okay. So if we look closely, the self-centeredness causes immediate problems in our life. It also is what impinges, or I should say, restricts our ability to develop bodhicitta, because bodhicitta depends on cherishing others as much as we cherish ourselves, and really wanting uh, so much to be of great benefit from them, for them, that we are willing to put in the effort to practice the path and create merit for three countless great eons, and meditate on emptiness, yeah, and fulfill the far-reaching practices. Yeah, we care so much about others and want them so much to be free from samsara that uh, our renunciation, our own personal determination to be free, has to apply to other living beings. Yeah, because they're equal to me in wanting happiness and not suffering. Okay, so it's really imperative that we start to see the disadvantages of our self-centeredness. Yeah, and that I should make clear, this does not mean that we blame ourselves for everything. The antidote to self-centeredness is not is not blaming ourselves for everything and saying we're the most horrible, undeceiving person in the world. Okay? Because if self-centeredness is thinking that it thinks we're overly important. So we usually think about that as being selfish and, thinking I should get my way. Yeah, I should be the star. But when we go, but then we, and that often goes together with arrogance, then we think the remedy to that is self-deprecation. Yeah. And we start, oh, I can't do anything right. The marriage fell apart. It was all my fault. Yeah. I was in line to get that promotion, but I blew it. I always blow everything. I can't do anything right. This is just really awful. I make a mess of everything. I'm so unlovable. Nobody really loves me the way I want to be loved. What am I going to do? I'm depressed. Okay, anybody here put themselves down? Yes, it's one of our favorite American pastimes when we're not blaming others, is putting ourselves down. Yeah. And, relating to what I said yesterday, we sometimes feel the more we deprecate ourselves and feel guilty about what we did, the more we are purifying, making atonement for just being such an awful, hopeless person who can't do anything right. And so we play this record in our mind. Okay, how awful I am, how unlovable I am, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think you know the script. Yeah, you know the script. Yeah. So we have to stop and look, yeah, because thinking that we are the worst person in the world, that is also being self-centered. If I'm not the best one, well, I'm still exemplary in some way, and I am the worst one. If I'm not important because I'm the best one, I am important because I am the worst one. Okay? And then we self-sabotage. Yeah, before we try to do anything, we tell ourselves, it's impossible, I can't do it, because I can't do anything right. But I really can't. When my computer doesn't cooperate, I have to call him because I really can't do anything. Yeah, you see what happens all the time. It doesn't work when I'm trying to do something. I call him, he comes in, he doesn't even have to touch the computer and it works. Yeah. Even my computer doesn't love me. Yeah. But if we look at how all this self-talk that we have, that we repeat again and again, and ask ourselves if it's true. Okay, you say, I can't do anything right. Is that true? You can't do anything right? Hello? You're sitting there in deep meditation. Oh, she said, I can't do anything right. Maybe that's true. Yeah, she's the authority, I can't do anything right. Yeah. Is it true that you can't do anything right? No. Okay. Yeah, you have some skills. You can do things. Yeah, I can do many things right. A computer is not, I know how to turn the computer on. I know how to work it when it cooperates. Yeah. So I do know some things. Yeah. But when it's uncooperative, when it has its own mind, they don't need to invent AI. My computer knows how to deliberately make me aggravated on purpose. Yeah. Um, you know, I can do something right. There's things I don't know how to do, but that's okay. Yeah, that's okay that I don't know how to do everything. Because if I were the person who was always right, who knew how to do everything, okay, welcome to the world of the Neanderthals. Okay, I can change a light bulb. I couldn't reach it. I have to ask for help, but I can change a light bulb. Do I know how electricity works? I studied a little of that in high school and I forgot all of it. Okay. What about plumbing? I know how to turn on the faucet. I know how to flush the toilet. Do I know how plumbing works? No. Okay. If I were the best one in the world, we wouldn't have electricity, we wouldn't have plumbing. We actually wouldn't even have this building because I don't know how to design a building or build a building. And we also wouldn't have motorized vehicles because I don't know how to build one and I don't understand how they operate. Okay? So there's no need to be the best one. And just because we aren't the best one doesn't mean we're the worst one. Okay? It's just something we don't know. Now, I imagine if I was really interested in electricity, I could go back to school and become an electrician. But I would rather study the Dharma and talk to you on Sunday morning. Yeah. So we depend on other living beings to stay alive. Yeah. And I think more than any other time in human history, we depend on each other because none of us, knows how to do everything. Yeah. And the good thing is that we can rely on other sentient beings to help us. So when we think about the help that we receive from other sentient beings, it's just amazing. Yeah. What we have that, we don't even know how to do for ourselves. Okay. Everybody have breakfast? Yeah. Do any of you know how to cook, how to grow your own food? Yeah. Maybe you have one little garden and you grow tomatoes in the summer. Yeah. So are you going to eat tomatoes all year round because you can produce all your own food all by yourself? Yeah. No, we depend on other people who grow the food. And those people depend on the people who help them. Yeah, because, nowadays, if you're going to grow wheat, you have to, have a machine to till the earth and plant the seeds and, harvest it. So where did the machine come from? Yeah, it came from other people. If we were a farmer, we would have to depend on John Deere. Does he make that? I know he makes construction machines. Okay. Yeah, he makes farming machines too. Okay. So we have to depend on John Deere. Did John Deere himself make the machine? Unlikely. There are a bunch of people working for him. And probably not even one of those people alone made the machine. It required many people who made all the different parts. Where did the metal come from for the parts on the machine? What? What? China. Yeah. And it depends on other people, doesn't it? Yeah. China, I think Canada also, we get stuff from a bunch of countries. Yeah. So we're dependent on people that we don't even know. Yeah. So when we look at everything we have, it all came due to the kindness of the living beings. They don't need to have us in mind as a unique, privileged individual. John Deere founded his whole company for my benefit, and he tells all of his employees that they are working so that I can have a piece of toast in the morning because they made the machine that the farmers use to plant the crops, you know, and to plant the crops. and harvest the crops that the bakers made. I also don't know them. And somebody else wrapped up and gave to a supermarket. And I don't know the people in the supermarket either who put it on the shelf and who checked it out. But because of this whole chain of dependence, I have a piece of toast this morning. Yeah, we cannot live without the kindness of other living beings. It's impossible. Yeah, that's why I said, welcome to the Neanderthal age. Hmm? Even if you knew about electricity, yeah, do you know how to make the wires? Do you know how to make the metal? Do you know how to design the building to put your electric wires in? Yeah. So everybody is dependent on other people, and it's because we share doing things that we're able to be successful. It's when we refuse to cooperate and do things for others, yeah, that then we have problems. Yeah. If John Deere said, I quit, forget it, I'm closing the company, bye bye, everybody. Well, all of his competitors would rejoice, but maybe the rest of us, would lack some of the bread that we eat. Yeah. And it's even more humbling to think that everything we know came from others. Yeah. And when you start with, well, what did you learn as a kid? Well, first of all, we learned how to speak. Yeah. Did we come out of the womb knowing how to speak? Uh-uh. All we knew how to do was cry and poop. Yeah, and pee. Yeah. And look cute without trying, because you have to look cute as a baby, otherwise you're not going to survive. So even if you're just sitting there going, adults think that you're adorable. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that? Every parent, their kid is when they're a baby, not when they're a teenager. Their baby is the most adorable. Nobody's ever had a baby like this. They're just glued to looking at their baby. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever think of your parents looking at you like that? Yeah, they did. They did. Yeah, they did. Even if were in an orphanage, the people who took care of you there looked at you as adorable. And your birth parents gave you up because they knew that they couldn't take proper care of you, and they wanted you to have a wonderful life. Yeah. My little sister is adopted. I am so thankful to her birth mother for giving her up, because I always wanted a little sister. And due to the kindness of Robin's birth mother, I have a little sister who I love very much. So, if we look at how we are interconnected in society, how much we depend on each other, how much, I was talking before about learning how to speak. Yeah, we didn't know how to speak. We just went, yeah. But how did we learn to speak? Because adults looked at it and they went, goo, goo, ga, ga. And they showed us with their mouth, how do you move your mouth to make the different sounds? Something we do automatically. When you talk, are you aware of how you move your mouth, or you're just talking, and you can express yourself because, our parents, the neighbors, other kids, our teachers, modeled how to move our mouths so that we could learn to speak. Yeah. What about reading and writing? It's another skill we take for granted. Could you imagine not knowing how to read? Yeah, living in this society. Yeah, and all you had is those ridiculous little things that Apple says are so intuitive that will let you know what to do. All you had is emojis, and what do they call those little things? What? Yeah, like icons. No, not emojis are about yeah, yesterday when you went in and AdGuard was doing something. Extensions, but what is it? The drawings that they have. Not ad. Just, when you open your task, your taskbar, there's little drawings of things. What are those called? They're called icons? Oh, okay. I always thought of icons as statues and marble. Okay. So anyway, Apple says that these icons are so intuitive that you just should look at that little picture and know what it means and what it stands for. So say the people who use Apple. I use Microsoft because there's a word, there's not just an icon. Who made these icons are not intuitive. Yeah, they have, they, they're supposed to indicate what the program does, or when you're typing on Word, I know hardly anybody does that anymore. Everything you just speak and it types for you. I just do things the old way. Uh, they assume that you know what those things mean. Yeah. I don't see them as intuitive. Maybe if you're 5 years old, yeah, yeah. When in doubt, ask a 5-year-old. They'll know how to work the computer better than you. Yeah. But my point is that everything we learn from other people. How to read, if all we had was little icons, yeah, how would we communicate? How would we, express what we really felt? We'd be drawing little pictures all the time and expect other people to know what those icons meant, not realizing that some of us are icon, uh, um, what's the challenge? Thank you. That's the polite route. I am icon challenged. In other words, forget it. Yeah. So, when we look, every aspect of our life is linked to other living beings. And if those other living beings didn't do those things, where would we be? Yeah. We would be really lost. So when we look at things, our happiness all comes from others. Now, somebody's going to say, well, wait a minute. Okay, maybe in one way, but I earned my money. I worked hard. They paid me. I earned my money. It is mine. It came from me and my labors. But somebody else gave you the money. Yeah. If you think you have financial problems now, when you were born broke. Yeah. all of us started out broke. So even if you don't have as much as you want, which nobody does, you have made progress. Yeah. I mean, think about it. We were born broke, right? We had no skills. We couldn't go to work and do anything. Yeah. Everything came because of the kindness of others. So even now as adults, when you work, how do you have those skills? Because other people taught you. Yeah. How do you have the money? Because other people who had money paid you at the end of, your work. So everything really depends on the kindness of other living beings. Yeah. And that's something to really think about on a daily basis. I know for myself, when I started doing this meditation, where did the cup come from? Where did the water come from? Where did the table that the cup's coming from sitting on? I didn't make any of it. Yeah. How did I learn how to drink from a cup? Yeah. Adults taught me. They taught me how to drink from a cup. So when we look deeply into this, and there's an incredible feeling of gratitude that comes for other living beings and for all the people who do what they do. Because we realize how dependent we are on their kindness. Yeah. It doesn't matter that they didn't do it just for us. What matters is that they did it and I benefited. Okay, we usually think that something is kind only when they do it just for me. They have to do it just for me, yeah, because I have to know that I am the most important one, yeah. So it doesn't matter what you give me. You can give me a dirty tissue, but you gave it to me. Maybe I'm not the most, well, yeah. If you're a little kid and you give me your dirty tissue, you're expecting me to do something with it. Yeah, you are respecting me as an adult. Okay. But, when we look, everything dependent on others. Doesn't matter that they don't do it for me in particular. So when we really spend some time thinking about this, it really changes our perspective. Yeah, because we begin to see that we've been the recipient of an incredible amount of kindness our entire life. Incredible amount of kindness. Yeah. And there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. So all this thing of, oh, I can't do anything right, nobody loves me, I've been abandoned, no. All that whole trip, actually, no, it's not true. Yeah, people in society, through their work, have given us everything we have. Lama Zopa, one of the founders of FPMT, of which this center is a member, was one of my first teachers. He and Lama Yeshe were my first teachers. And Lama, in his previous life, was a meditator in the Sulakumu area up by Mount Everest. And he was born in that area, again in this lifetime. And sometimes he would go up and meditate there. There was a cave there, and he meditated in it. And the villagers in the Solukhumbu area, very poor, they're high in the mountains. They can't grow, apples and fruit and things like that. Their main crop is potatoes. Yeah. And so your diet centers on potatoes. And Rinpoche one day was saying how people who would come to visit him would bring an offering, and it would be potatoes in general. They would give him potatoes. And he said that when he really thought about the kindness of these people, he said he could barely eat the potato. He barely felt worthy of the tremendous kindness that they had shown him in giving him one potato. So that really made an impression on me, hearing that, to value even one potato that somebody gives you. Not to mention to value everything else that I have, everything else that I know. Okay. So even our grade school teachers, they're very kind. How many of you are teachers or were teachers? Okay. Yeah. Teaching is difficult, especially nowadays. My goodness. Yeah. I taught school before I became a nun, but that was back with the dinosaurs. It was much easier then. Now, yeah, not only fire drills, but you have to carry a gun. Yeah, you have to be a first grade teacher with a gun in a classroom to protect your kids from school shooting. Is this crazy or is that crazy? Yeah, it's totally crazy. And yet, this is what teachers have to do, And now, dear Donnie is telling you he's dictating the curriculum. It should be the school board of no DEI. Yeah, so you have to scrub that from everything. But if you look at what our teachers went through teaching us, were you kind to your grade school teachers? Yeah, some of them, we might have been good kids and nice kids. But were there some teachers that you just didn't like? Ah, yes. My freshman year in high school, I decided Mr. Boulderson, my geography teacher. I was reading Ayn Rand as a freshman in high school. If you know anything about Ayn Rand, it's me, I, my, and mine on steroids. So I was, me, I, my, and mine, and I know what I'm doing, and people who are incompetent, we should just forget about them. And Mr. Boulderson was incompetent. I don't know why, but I just decided he was. Okay. And one day, in Ayn Rand, she would have been proud of me. I stomped out of the classroom and I went to the principal and I said, I am not going back in that room again because that teacher is incompetent. Yeah. So they let me do a self-study in the library for the rest of the semester. Okay. Otherwise, on citizenship, remember they used to grade the dinosaurs on citizenship. I got good grades. Yeah. But Mr. Walderson was too much. But I did learn something from him. Yeah. I learned how to recognize that I was a brat. Yeah. As I treated him miserably. One day he was also teaching summer school, which I attended. And he just said, I feel sorry for you. I said, I don't want your pity. See, Ayn Rand would have been so proud of me. I don't want your pity. I was so obnoxious to this poor man. Yeah. But as I grew up and looked back on that, it's like I learned something about myself. Yeah. It was not a pleasant thing to learn. Yeah. But it made me a little less arrogant, yeah, which was something good. And as I was saying yesterday, we have experiences where somebody betrays our trust. It's an opportunity to learn so much. Instead of falling into self-pity, oh, it's all my fault. It's yeah, I had unrealistic expectations that I didn't clear with other people. They didn't accept to do those things. That you might say, but I did clear and they did accept to do those things. Well, I have another little phrase that I invented that is one of my favorites. It is, sentient beings do what sentient beings do. Okay? Who are sentient beings, or what are sentient beings? They are living beings whose minds are overwhelmed by ignorance, attachment, anger, jealousy, pride, wrong views. Yeah? Who means well, dear, as Lama Yeshe said, but who, do what they consider right, even though they don't recognize that they should be doing everything I think is right. Okay. But, even they betray trust. Well, I did clear it with them. But why, even if I clear with somebody that they're going to do something, do I expect it to be done impeccably? As they say, life happens. And people say they're going to do things. And sometimes people, in their excitement and in their goodwill, they were even volunteered to do things. And then they're too busy. Yeah. Different things come up in your life. You have a plan, and then the car breaks down. Yeah. We planned for the Buddha Hall. Well, the contractor told us the Buddha Hall was going to be finished in 1 year. Yeah, in July, it'll be 3 years. Yeah, maybe it'll be done by this July, but I've given up, sending any kind. People always say, when is it going to be done? And I respond, in the future. Because whatever the contractor tells me, so far, this happens, that happens, and we were almost on the verge of completing it and signing for, substantial completion. And then a pipe, up in the ceiling froze, and it was a pipe in the water suppression system. When pipes with water in them freeze, they burst. And due to gravity, the water goes down. So it went through the ceiling, it destroyed the ceiling, went down, flooded, half of the upper floor, then went down through the electric wires, and water was dripping from all the electric fixtures, and flooded the library below it, such that the people who got up to do it, I slept through the whole thing, but he was up doing it, sweeping, shoveling water out of the building. Okay, life happens. A burst pipe was not on our calendar. It was not something the contractor said was going to happen. But so when I say sentient beings do what sentient beings do, it's like things come up, and sometimes people want to help and then they can't, or sometimes people think that they know how to do something and they don't, and that it becomes a mess. But to give other living beings some leeway and not expect perfection. So people do their best, and they are limited beings just like me. I don't do everything perfect. Although you should think that I do. Because that's one of my rules of the universe. But I don't do everything perfect. And so other people don't either. And to give them some leeway there. Okay. So, but my point here is to, to really see the kindness of others and how much we depend on them. And from that, when we really meditate very deeply about that, then automatically we want to repay their kindness. We want to give in return. So this thing of when people at McDonald's or wherever it is, they pay for the person behind them. This is that kind of attitude. I realize that I've received a lot. I want to do something for others. So this is the feeling behind U.S. aid. When we get, that agency that dear Ilan is trying to trash. We want to do something for other living beings, not because we pity them, but because they've done something for us. In one way or another, they've done something for us. And even if you say, okay, well, somebody in, someplace, somewhere other continent, and they haven't done anything that I directly benefit from, but maybe we indirectly benefit from them. What's this thing about a butterfly in Singapore flaps its wings, and then what? Does anybody know the full thing? How it is?
It's when a butterfly flaps its wings at one continent, it can cause a hurricane on another continent.
So that's talking about how dependent we are on each other, and how we may not see direct benefit or direct dependency, but because the butterfly flapping its wings in Singapore influence the air current, and then that influence and blah, 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 then there's a hurricane in North Carolina, okay? So this thing of really seeing dependence, it's very, it doesn't fit in well with our American thing of I want to be an individual and be recognized as an individual. No, it's yeah. But it's, we depend on each other. So let's cooperate. Let's look out for the welfare of others. Yeah. Mary Grace over here, if you walk down a street with her, well, yeah, I can't talk about you. You want me to talk about you behind your back? At least I'm talking about you in front of you. Yeah. Yeah. So she carries food with her wherever she goes. And if she sees street people, she stops and talks to them and gives them food. She doesn't know who they are. Yeah. But there's dependency in this society, in this world. So we help others. And if you hang around with her for more than 5 minutes, she'll tell you to do that too. But it's good advice, isn't it? Carry extra food with you and then give it to people who don't have.
She asks for their names and she treats them like human beings. This is the most beautiful part for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because often, what a street person wants really the most is to be acknowledged as worthy of something. I gave the students, when I taught in Seattle, an assignment one time to, to give things. So one, to give things to strangers. So the next week, when they came back, I said, what did you do? So one man said, I was in Berkeley, California, and there are lots of street people there. And he said there was one woman who was just, looked miserable sitting on the street. And he pulled out some money, I don't know, a few dollars, and bent over and with both hands gave it to her, put it in her hands. And she looked up at him. He said, I wish I could give you more. And she looked up at him, and I forget what it was that she said, but the message was, you acknowledge me as a human being who is worthy of receiving something. And he said that the look on her face, how he looked at her after he gave her a few dollars, was worth more than, millions of dollars if he had had it, just to see that you can do very small things that have a big effect on other living beings. Yeah. So we don't all have to be Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama, but we can do things in our own way, in our own life, with the people around us. Okay, so our time is up, but we can have a few questions.
If we acknowledge that our actions in this life can create karma in the next life, perhaps negative actions in this life would create a worse rebirth in the next life. How do we avoid the thinking of people who are born into unfortunate circumstances and situations deserve to be in that situation because of a past?
Okay.
Yeah, so how do we see people in difficulties and not say, you deserve it, you created some negative karma, and in a last life you're getting what you deserve? Okay, so just imagine that you got hit by a car and you're lying in the middle of the street bleeding, and somebody walks by and says, "Oh, that's too bad. It's just the ripening of your negative karma. You deserve it." Would you consider a person who did that creating virtue by how they're treating the person, treating you bleeding in the middle of the street? No. So why would you even think about that and say, too bad, you deserve it? Yeah. If you think like that, if you treat people like that, like they deserve this, then what kind of person are you? And that means when you have problems, it's going to be completely fine if everybody else just says, "Oh, you deserve it. Yeah. You have a cancer diagnosis. Yeah, that's too bad, but you deserve it. In a previous life, you did blah, 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 blah. So, don't even, you deserve it. And if I help you, let's say I'm the doctor, I say, you deserve it. If I help you, I'm interfering with your karma. And I can't interfere with your karma. So just sit there. You can die of cancer, no big deal. Yeah. That way of thinking is, abominable. No, it's certainly not the meaning of karma. Okay, yeah, it's not the meaning of karma. But this is, related to how people often say, "Well, you're poor, so you don't deserve the same health care as other people." Yeah, or you don't have certain sheets of paper, so you don't deserve a job, or whatever it is. Yeah. That kind of way of looking at sentient beings is totally, it's non-virtuous. It is, self-centered arrogance. Mm. Okay. Thank you for asking that. That's an important thing to clear up.
I have a question here from Drew. Are our rules of the universe innate habits? Some people are more kind and open than others, but they have ignorance too. What changed in their minds?
Okay. So let me see if I understood it properly. So there's all of us have rules of the universe, but some people are kind. How did they get from their rules of the universe to kindness? They came to this teaching and then yeah, no, I'm joking. Um, this is one thing that is in all of the world religions, yeah, to help other people. We are taught it doesn't matter what faith you are. It doesn't matter even if you have a faith. It's we learn as little kids even to share our things and to be kind. Or our parents try and teach us those things. Sometimes we don't learn them so well. Okay, but how do we change this self-centered mind to a mind that cherishes others? First of all, we see how how uh, our self-centeredness harms us. Yeah, other people are not our enemy. Our self-centeredness is our real enemy. Okay, so when you really meditate on that and see how our self-centeredness again and again and again makes problems for us in our life, as well as makes problems for other people. That's one element of it. And then the second element is really meditating on the kindness of other living beings seeing how we are dependent on them. Okay, so how did they do that? They have, there's similar teachings in all the great world religions. I can't quote the Bible, but I know that it's in there. Somebody quote, what does it do unto others as you want others to do unto you? Yeah, so that's there. When I was in Israel, I met a Sufi imam. We had a really good relationship, and he told me that in Islam, you're not allowed to possess something that your neighbor cannot afford. Yeah. Now, just like the golden rule in Christianity, just like the meditation on the kindness of others in Buddhism, that doesn't mean everybody who says they belong to that religion practices that, but it's there, you know. And if we've heard it, you don't have to be Buddhist to hear that. Even no faith. I mean, your parents teach you to be kind to other kids, share your belongings. So yeah, so it's how do we change ourselves? Familiarization again and again and again, thinking about these things. Yeah. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Okay, you got to hear another one of my stories. Okay, so when I lived in Dharamsala, India in the 70s, I was dirt poor. I didn't even have enough enough money for a ticket to come back to the West. I was so poor that I self-rationed my toilet paper. You know that you're poor when you have to ration your toilet paper. So every week, I had to walk down to the bazaar and get some groceries. And there were lepers, who lived in Dharamsala. And you get to know your lepers, the beggars who live in an area, you get to know them. So they were all lined up next to each other, and I would walk past them um, going down to the bazaar. And my teacher at that time, Geshe Nawandarge, I had his teachings in my mind. He was an incredible teacher, talked a lot about bodhicitta, cherishing other beings, compassion. And I would walk by and I'd think, I should give them at least 25 paise for a cup of tea. Yeah. How much is 25 paise? No, not rupees, pesa. There's 100 pesa in a rupee. 25 pesa is like less than a penny. Okay. Yeah. Of course, it's inflated now. The exchange rate wasn't the same then. But it was like, oh, but if I give them 25 pesa, then I won't have it. And I'm really poor. But then, Geshe Nawandarge, what did he teach about this morning? He taught about, the defects of self-centeredness. Yeah, I should give them 25 pesa. I don't want to because I'm so afraid that I'm going to wind up sitting next to them, begging myself. Yeah, even though I definitely had more money than they did. Yeah. So, what holds us back? Our fear, our miserliness, our self-centeredness. Yeah. So, what gave me the ability to free 25 pesa, 1 penny from my hand, was Geshe Nawandarge's teaching going around in my mind. It's like, when I listened to the teaching, I said, yes, that's the way we should all be. How come I can't do it? Come on, children, come on. You just put it over there and move your fingers. That's all you have to do. Yeah. So sometimes you have to nudge yourself, yeah, and encourage yourself, but as you do it, it becomes easier. They say that the Buddha, there was one lady, I think she must have been my previous rebirth sometime, and she couldn't give things, too much miserliness. So the Buddha gave her a carrot and said, practice giving this carrot from one hand to the other, just to get used to freeing it from, So she had to practice. This was her Dharma practice. Yeah. Putting it in another hand. It's another hand. It's not your same hand, but you can do this, and then one day you do that. And it is natural because you're habituated to it.
Is there a good English translation of Shantideva's Compendium of Training?
I only know of one translation. I think it was done by somebody named Goodman. I would like to find a better translation too. So if the person online finds some other ones, let me know. Yeah, I only know of that one. Is anybody here? Okay, let's dedicate the merit. And then we will offer the food. Yeah. Thinking that there's a small Buddha at our heart. Yeah, we're offering it to the Buddha. So when we eat, each mouthful is an offering. And also, what we can do before we offer the food is really think about the kindness of others, and especially the people in this world who at this time are extremely hungry and extremely thirsty, and there is no food to be seen. For example, in Gaza, in Darfur, yeah, many places. And some people who hardly ever have enough food to sustain them because they live in countries they're very poor. Myanmar, if you were an earthquake victim, it's going to be really difficult to find food. So it can be interesting before we start, not just interesting, but helpful to our own practice, to imagine giving, food to all these people who are hungry, them eating it, them feeling, whoa, the relief of not being hungry. And then when we chant the prayer, offering the food to the Buddha, to think that all those people are with us and they're chanting it with us, and they are now able and want to make offerings to the Buddha. So we think of them doing that, and we think of them creating the merit of offering to the Buddha.